गीतं कृष्णचैतन्यदेवं श्रीराधाकृष्णपादान् सहगणललिता श्रीविशाखावितांश्च श्रीकृष्णचैतन्य प्रभो नित्यानन्द श्री अद्वैत गदाधर शिवासादि गौरभक्तवृन्द हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे पांचकृपतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्येव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमः। Let me share my screen and I'll share the record. Next class from Maharaj. Just give me one moment. It's taking some time in opening. Just share. Please bear one more moment.
Is the self. The spark of life is the self, the true self. The respect goes to the spiritual dimension of every one of us. And then amongst those that are humans, there's some species that aren't human. Respect goes to them also because there's spark of life within. But amongst humans, then there's gradations. Those that have two legs, human. Those that are civilized, there's some that aren't civilized that have two legs. And so forth and so on, and going up and up and up and up and up and up to gradations of those with human forms that then exhibit the true nature of the soul, which is to be in their relationship with the Supreme Soul. So most respect for everyone. In the afternoon, this part 2, we heard even to an ant. Respect anything that's alive is to be respected. And even things that are not alive, like material nature, respect nature. There's nice teachings in this regard. It's to neglect respect is a fault. It's a blemish. It's a symptom of bad character, and it makes disturbance in society when you have bad characters roaming around doing bad character things in speech and conduct and disrespect of different kinds, different degrees. So in the part 2, we discussed a little bit about Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So those of you that are newer, is anybody in the newer category that would like to hear something about who is Krishna? Or we're good with who is Krishna? We're good. Okay. I've been in audiences where people would like to hear something. So Krishna spoke Bhagavad Gita. And after Krishna spoke Bhagavad Gita, the Kurukshetra battle took place, 18 days, and it was over. And many other things happened. And finally, Krishna departed. Krishna remained on earth performing pastimes for approximately 125 years. The time came for his departure. And after his departure, there's a little juncture of time, because time, according to Vedic picture, time moves in cycles. It's yugas, ages of mankind. And from the time that Krishna appeared, there was a little juncture before the next, kind of like sunrise, sunset is like a juncture. Sandhi, it's called in Sanskrit. So after Krishna departed, he began to consider, I gave the teachings in Bhagavad Gita by which people could be happy instead of struggling and not being happy as they could be, should be, would be, because they're spiritual and they're meant to be happy, spiritually happy. But this next yuga after my departure becomes the bad one, the dark one, the age of quarrel and hypocrisy, the one that we're in now. And people won't have the capacity to understand these nice teachings, therefore what to do. And many other things were considered. He decided there couldn't be anything better than I'll come myself. So Krishna came. In this dark age, to teach what he taught in Bhagavad Gita by his precept, by his words, and by his example. Two things, prachara and achara in Sanskrit, by his words and by his conduct. Show by example how to live your life in a way that leads to happiness and perfection, spiritual perfection. So we discussed in part 2 how those same principles of maryada, or good conduct, was exemplified in his pastimes, Lord Chaitanya's pastimes. Krishna himself teaching how to live your life in a proper way, or not just proper, in the spiritually elevated manner, to the stage of perfection. That's what we heard in part 2. That's like mini summary. And now it's part 3. And some of you that are newer, you may need an introduction to who is Lord Ramachandra, because that's what we're going to be speaking about. Lord Ramachandra, like Krishna, Ramachandra is an avatar. It's a nice word. They made a movie called Avatar. But they took it from the Sanskrit word avatar, which means one who descends. Avatar, from the spiritual realm into this realm, the Lord may make sometimes, from time to time, yada yada hi dharmasya glanir bhavati bharata. From time to time, Krishna comes and manifests one of his unlimited forms. So one of those beautiful unlimited forms is Ramachandra. And Ramachandra has a title, or he's known by Maryada Purushottama. Uttama means topmost, Purusha means supreme, or the enjoyer of his material nature, his creation. the topmost person who shows good conduct, Maryada Purushottama. So that's what we're going to be speaking about this evening. Examples from Ramayana, which is the epic, like big epic that tells the story of Ramachandra's life. And I'm going to take some passages from that Ramayana that illustrate how Ramachandra showed ideal conduct, Maryada Purushottama, in the best possible way. Through regulation, Maryada means etiquette, but it also means regulation. So those who live their life consistently from beginning to end, every day throughout their life, that's regulation. And we're practicing that life. So we're practitioners or sadhakas, practicing with regulation how to live our life properly, or in a way that the purpose of human life is achieved, that is awakening our original spiritual consciousness to the fullest degree, or love of God to the fullest degree. So that's our topic, along the line of, particularly along the line of respect. Because the very first part one was, as far as Vaishnava etiquette is concerned, or the behavior of someone that's a devotee of the Supreme, it begins with respect. We'll say it negatively. Without respect, you don't have a person with good etiquette. Sorry, it's just, it may be perfumed, but it's not good etiquette without respect. So within Ramayana, there's some examples of etiquette that are shown towards Guru. In the painting here, there's two boys. The darker one, that's Ramachandra. And the lighter one, that's one of his brothers, named Lakshmana. So a great sage, that's that fellow with the big beard, that's Vishwamitra Muni. Vishwamitra Muni, long history of who he was and how he got to be Vishwamitra Muni. But he was a celebrated personality of his time, during the time of Lord Ramachandra. And he was living in the forest with a little hermitage, a group of other renunciates, practicing devotion to the Supreme. And where they were staying, there was a mystical personality and her two sons. And their business was disrupting the austerities and sacrifices and pure activities of the sages. So Vishwamitra Muni, he was very powerful. He could have just zapped them with his mystic power, but he didn't. He went to the palace of the king, because the king is to give protection to everyone, and certainly to give protection to the Brahmanas, and certainly to give protection amongst the sages amongst the Brahmanas. So Vishwamitra Muni, pictured here with the big beard, he came to the palace in Ayodhya, where King Dasarath and his 4 sons were residing. And he, as soon as he arrived, the king stood. He's the king, or he's the emperor of the world. When the sage came, he's standing to respect the sage, Vishwamitra. And I don't know what brought you here, but you come for some reason. The answer is yes, whatever it is you want. Blank check. You fill in the amount. Anything you want. Very good. I want your 2 sons to come with me to deal with this wicked demon that's defiling our sacrificial ceremonies. My sons are so young, and you need help. I'm a mighty king. I can take care of. No, I want your sons, not you. I want your sons, not your armies. I want your sons. The king practically fainted. But they're young and they're tender and they're not trained, and I want your sons. And then the minister had kind of like whispered in the ear of the king, saying, "Say yes. If you make Vishwamitra angry, you got a big problem. He has a benevolent reason, not a malevolent, a benevolent reason for wanting your two sons. Trust him. He could deal with this problem himself. He wants to do some favor for your sons. Say yes." So we said yes. I'm keeping it simple. The dialogue is fantastic, but just the storyline goes like this. And so there goes Vishwamitra off to the forest with these two boys with their bow and arrows to deal with this mystical personality and take care of the mystical personality and her two sons that are disrupting their sacrifices and their austerities. So these two boys, they weren't yet trained. They weren't trained in many ways. They were trained in character, and they exhibited that character by, according to Valmiki Ramayana, they followed Vishwamitra for 12 miles. No, the measurements were in yojanas, but they traveled saying nothing. They didn't know where they were going. Valmiki, the author of Ramayana, says these are 12-year-old boys. For 1.5 yojanas, or 12 miles, they were completely silent. Now, little boy, 12-year-old boys, are they going to be silent for days and say nothing? Like, hey, where are we going? Where are we? What's next? Can you clue us in? Help. They just remained silent out of respect. This is the topic. Etiquette begins with respect. So they knew this much. Don't speak unless spoken to. Especially with seniors, especially with guru. And so they said nothing. They just tagged along, followed behind him wherever he went. And I'll read. The appreciation of the acharyas for Ram and Lakshman's guru nishtha is that unlike restless 12-year-old boys, princes, who otherwise might be curious, bored, or wondering where they were going, these two followed their guru unquestioningly. They trusted him. Wherever he's taking us, it's good. And after some time, he turned around. The Vishwamitra turned around and looked at the two boys and smiled. Because he understood they were being respectful. And it's not normal little 12-year-old.
Prabhu, you raised your hand. Hare Krishna, Shamkan Prabhu.
Yes, I thought we can pause here and have our discussion.
Okay, sure, Prabhu. Sure. So we'll pause here and then we'll start again from here tomorrow. Okay, so Any devotee would like to share their appreciation or questions or yes, Sarvadi Mataji, Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna Mataji. I liked the line that said to neglect respect is a fault. So anything that is life or even material, which is nature, should be respected. Thank you, Mataji. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Mataji. I mean, even I was thinking on those lines. It's so easy to say, but then so difficult to follow. Yeah. Thank you, Mataji, for highlighting. Anyone else?
Hare Krishna ji, 100 pranam.
Hare Krishna, then we pranam Prabhu.
Yes, Maji, thank you. So very nice lecture. The way Maharaj set up the context, went back to storyline, again sets up context, again goes back to storyline. He sort of keeps all the audience, members of the audience in loop. So everybody is addressed. They're given the context who Lord Ram is, who Lord Krishna is, who's Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So that the way he narrates the story is amazing. That is one. And this part which I liked is again, which Sarbari Mataji mentioned, that we have to, if we don't respect, that's not considered good etiquette or good manners. So that's nice. And another thing is about Lord Ram's character. So this particular lecture specifically refers to respect from Ramayana, and Maharaj starts with that particular anecdote where Lord Ram is following Vishwamitra Muni. So that particular, the way he's doing it is very nice. And just one or two questions come to mind. That is it just because his father, Dashrath Maharaj, mentioned that you have to go along with Vishwamitra Muni? Is it how inherently that they don't speak or ask any questions? That is one. And another thing is, I think this is the one. This is one of them. And I had one more question. I'll just maybe get back to that. So if Shamkun Prabhu can throw more light on this, Mataji. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Thank you for asking. Shampan Prabhu, if you can.
Sure. Uh, this part of, I mean, it was taught, I mean, by the time Lord Rama had gone with Vishwamitra, he was around 12 years old, and it was assumed that the princes were already taught this kind of etiquette, that one should ideally not have a chitter chatter with an acharya, elderly persons unnecessarily. So it's not just that because their father Dashratha had said so, but it was part of the training. We don't find that in 12-year-olds of this era. That's a different thing, but it's part of cultural training. And I wanted to speak more on that and come back to it.
Yes, thanks a lot, Prabhu. The other thing is, which was mentioned, Maharaj mentioned, that speak unless you're spoken to, and particularly to Guru and senior Vaishnavas. So how do we draw a line, Prabhu? Where is the balance? So should we not ask anything at all, or should we speak something and wait? How is it, Prabhu? How does that go in current day context, Prabhu? Hare Krishna. That's the other question.
First and foremost is to understand that the time of, especially of, let me not even call it senior Vaishnavas, it should be elders in general. That their time is precious. They have many more things to do. And sometimes we approach elders for conversations which will make us want to have a relationship with them. And it is understandable. We speak not to know, but we speak to connect many times. So when we speak, we first need to know that when I'm asking, especially some things that I need to know, is it that I just need to ask this person, or this is the world of Google and Chat GPT. Can I just find it out? Number one. But when it is about speaking to connect, we should be mindful of the time of the other person and think carefully of what's the bare minimum thing that I can ask so that I can get it more from the other person. Definitely, sometimes there is a need that I want to connect in a particular way. But if I want to connect to another person, especially a very prominent person like an acharya, we need to think, is my speaking the only way to connect, or can I do other ways too? Srila Prabhupada especially encouraged his disciples to connect to him through his Vani. Many of them connected to Srila Prabhupada through his Vani or his lectures or his writings, and they felt fully satisfied. Or, in other words, in the modern day context, we have enough of lectures, like even say we are discussing this morning, etc. There is and we are discussing amongst ourselves. There is enough that we all have already getting. Are we not processing it enough? That's a question we need to ask. If after processing it enough in our minds, we still have some lacuna in our heart, then we go to the next step, Prabhu. So and even when we go to the next step, better to go to somebody who has already, like say we have a Vishwamitra or an Acharya in us, amongst us. Better to go to some other disciple of that Acharya and find out first, and then go next to the Acharya. That way. Does it help?
Yes,
Vivek?
Prabhu. Thank you.
Okay. I'll still have a
Thank you.
follow-up, but that is just addressing your question. But there's an extension to it. I'll come to it.
Thank you. Thank you, Prabhu.
The extension to it is the converse to it. One thing is don't speak until spoken to. In other words, many people think that we all have to learn how to express ourselves. When we try to express ourselves, sometimes we end up giving writing like a mini biography, or and telling many things which are not relevant. So we need to learn in typically the brevity in speech. That is one part of it. But the converse of it is, many times what I have seen is people don't speak until they are asked to, or until somebody is questioned. Humility is in submitting oneself before being asked. Like, say, for example, uh, if we are doing something, say any activity, before doing the activity itself, we go and tell our acharya or the person guiding us, I'm planning to do this. What's your input on it? It's not like me, like somehow sometimes people believe that, let me try some things, let me be successful, and after I'm successful, I'm going to tell, I tried this worked for me. That doesn't bring independence. The etiquette, or the maryada that is actually coming up when we speak to superiors is that I recognize you are the carrier of the, the Kripa Shakti of Krishna, and I therefore need that Kripa Shakti from you. Number one. Number two, I recognize my finiteness, and therefore, in my finiteness, before I lose my way, I'd like to let you know. Number three, even if I'm on the right track, please note that this is what I have learned, and this is how I assimilated from you and from all the acharyas, and I'm trying to express it in this way. I hope you like it. So you see, communication becomes a form for saying how we are dependent on others. So I see two extremes that, when, like, especially for what you said, Vivek Prabhu, don't speak until spoken to. That one extreme is people don't know how to do it, and many people, they take it in the wrong way. So first part when I answered you was how to do it the right way. The second part, the extension, is be accountable part. That's and the accountability brings in a closeness in relationship. It's not about following a rule, but it's about being close in the relationship. It's about expressing dependence. That's one thing. Now I'll go to the other parts. Maharaj begin his lecture with saying, as Shabri Mataji too said, to not respect is a fault. It's a bad thing in society, and one has to. If as leaders, some of you, as you all grow up as leaders, if you see it, you'll have to bring up systems in place such that such things don't happen. We'll have to create programs in place so that it doesn't happen. Always make the world a better place than when you came in. I mean, we are here at some point in time, but we should always make the world a little better when we get out. By get out, I mean before we die. That's one thing. Second, Maharaj, as an expansion for this, he was also saying that respect goes to material nature too. How do we respect material nature? One small way. We were taught, even as children, for a very valid reason, that even if there is paper on the ground, do not touch paper with your foot, because it is showing disrespect, lack of maryada to paper. And of course, we were also taught that paper is an expansion of Saraswati. So instead of paper, there might be a wooden box, or there might be anything else. And all of them were told that they're being related to various deities. Why? The fundamental principle in the Vedic Dharma is things of this world are meant to be used to the Supreme Lord, or they are connected to some uh, associates of the Supreme Lord or expansions of the Supreme Lord. And therefore, it is important that we do, do give proper respect to such items in this world. It could be paper, it could be a pot, it could be a mug, anything. It is, in other words, it is not meant for my enjoyment. And the more and more we get into it, it becomes easier to live a life that this is not for my enjoyment. It finally comes all the way to my children are not for my enjoyment. My spouse is not meant for my enjoyment. My guru is not meant for my enjoyment. My friends are not meant for my enjoyment. But those living entities, seeing them in that way, begins with first seeing non-living things and seeing that these non-living things are connected to a deity, or they are connected as in some form of service to a deity. That's one point I just wanted to elaborate. Uh, one of the other points with respect to respecting material nature is when things of this world are not brought to be in touch with God, then it is again a problem, because then it is going to be used for our own selves. For example, when Hanuman jumped to Lanka, he saw huge skyscrapers in Lanka. And in Ayodhya too, there were skyscrapers. Both places we had skyscrapers, but it was Hanuman uh, who used, I mean, like in Ayodhya, the skyscrapers were used to give pleasure to Rama. In Lanka, they were used to just have one's own sense enjoyment. So what happened to that Lanka? When Hanuman jumped in there, uh, by a sequence of events, Lord, I mean, like his tail was slit, and it is said that he burnt Lanka. But Sripada Madhvacharya says that it all the devatas, Agni, Varuna, Indra, they all were petrified. They were terrified of Ravana. So they couldn't even gather the courage to come in front of Ravana. So if the fire was lit on Hanuman's tail, how could Agni burn Lanka when he was already afraid of Ravana? So Madhvacharya says that It is not that the fire that was lit on Hanuman's tail which burnt Lanka, it was the mere effulgence of Hanuman that burnt Lanka. In other words, when things of this world are not used in the service of the Supreme Lord, just it requires the presence of a pure devotee to come and say, these are not being used. Now let's do something else with it. So either do it willingly or unwillingly, we'll be forced to relinquish it. That's one point. That's the second point here. The third point, which I want to bring it up in two different ways, is about the etiquette towards Guru. As soon as Vishwamitra entered, everybody got up. How did Srila Prabhupada teach us? That as soon as a devotee enters, we pay respects to the devotee by saying the prayer. Vancha kalpa tarubhyascha kripa sindhubhya evacha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. If not every moment, at least in the beginning of the day itself, when Srila Prabhupada was present, most of his disciples were there together in the temple, and so they all paid obeisances to each other at least once in a day. His Holiness Jayadvaita Maharaj used to say that he used to have a very critical outlook, and so he was afraid that he was committing an offense towards the devotees. So he would spend a lot of time in the morning program that he would bend down, pay obeisance to all the devotees, praying that please forgive me if I have done something wrong. And then he would go to Tulsi Devi and sit next to her and pray intently that I am being given a service, I've been given an ability. And with this ability, I'm being critical. And yet, I do not want to hurt the feelings of devotees. Please help me. That's one thing for such elevated persons. For us, when we meet devotees, at least once, ideally when they come and when they leave, both times we need to pay obeisance. I'm saying the word we need because it is helpful for us to put things in perspective. Why? Because when we pay obeisance to a devotee, we pray, Vancha kalpataru bhyascha. You are a kalpataru. You are the kalpataru you are the desired tree of devotional service. Why? You have done something good in devotional service. Krishna is happy with you. Do please uh, be pleased with me, and and I respect you that Krishna's mercy, Krishna Kripa has come on you. And in some cases, maybe you even have Krishna Shakti also. So first and foremost, this Vancha Kalpa Taru, this phrase of the verse is putting the identity on the other person, that you are a devotee and you are unique, something's nice in you. Kripa Sindhu. Now comes the next part. That is, you, my dear devotee to whom I'm paying obeisance to, you are an ocean of good fortune. And then comes the next. Patita Nam Pavanebhyo. Patita is fallen, Pavanebhyo is purifying. And when we say Patita, we have to refer to us in our mind. I am a Patita. I am just unable to control my senses. I am unable to know what is the essence of the Vedic scriptures. I am having the gift of the holy name. I am still not able to do anything. Even when I recite the holy name, I'm not able to get a taste for the holy name. So I am fallen. Patitanam pavanebhyo. You are purifying. Why? Because you have connected to this Paramatma in your heart. There is this Paramatma in your heart. So I am paying obeisance to you who has connected to the Paramatma in your heart and also to the Paramatma who is in your heart. To both of them, Patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. It's not just one namaha, namo namaha. With all intensity, with all intent, I'm paying obeisance to you. Please accept it. So that word please is also very important. In that mood, we pay obeisance when we meet a devotee. Okay, so that's one part. Now, having said that, let me extend it a little bit. This may take me 5 minutes. I hope it's okay. Sometimes devotees are unable to honestly pay obeisance. Why? Because there's a past anguish. They believe this person, I told something to this person, he didn't do it that way. How can I even respect? So when people are hurting, that is, like, say, if I am being hurt, uh, I sometimes it may so happen that we may even find that I cannot respect the other person. And the ways in which we try to say that I'll still be respectful is, I'm not going to speak bad about that person to others. Nor, but I mean, I'm not going to speak bad, but I just will not even act as if, I mean, it becomes invariably, involuntarily, it becomes as if like that person doesn't exist in front of me. They just avoid that person. Okay. So it becomes a sort of disrespect there because the person is feeling that I have, I have been violated in some way or the other. Maine itna kuch kiya. I have done so much for the other person and I have been violated. And because of this violation, they are trying to cope up with it. And the way they cope up with it is avoidance. Sometimes the way they cope up with it is even this, whatever I said about the paying obeisance to devotee, they don't even bother. When they meet a devotee whom they like, they speak nice words. But here with this devotee, no nice words, nothing. It's all being hurt. Now I'll take the same thing to a little next level. This is an incident that did happen. Uh, Please don't read too much into the incident, but try to get, don't get too curious about what happened and things like that's not important. But it's important to know that how we learn some things from what's happening around us. There is one disciple, there's one nice devotee of Srila Prabhupada, there's one nice disciple of Srila Prabhupada. Um, he did take initiation from Srila Prabhupada, and after some time, after the departure of Srila Prabhupada, it so happened that he felt that he can get more shiksha from another guru in the Gaudiya mission. So he left ISKCON, so to say, and he took shiksha under that person. And over a period of time, that guru also left, but he was very grateful to that guru too. So Srila Prabhupada was his first guru, say guru number one. There is another guru number two, and especially after the departure of one spiritual master, one can go and take guidance from others too. That is all fine. Uh, so after the departure of guru number two, he he took to his heart somehow that everybody should get access to the holy name. So he went to the remotest parts of the world where people couldn't have access. He went to forest communities, tribal communities, all those places. People from a totally different culture than the Vedic culture. He went to such places and gave the holy name. And his strength was in reaching out to people. His strength was in making people feel valued. And it so happened that while he was doing all of these services, years passed, 20 years, 30 years passed, 25, 30 years passed, a little more than that, maybe 40 years too passed. A lot of people began to chant. He became a guru also. And at some point in time, he felt that uh, he was a sannyasi, and yet he felt that the push of the attraction to the opposite sex is still there. And he tried his best in whatever ways he wanted, if he could, and what he knew. And somehow he failed. He ended up touching women inappropriately at some point. He was a sannyasi, and he touched women inappropriately. And as Krishna would have it, when he wants to purify his people, his devotees who render nice service, he doesn't want them to linger and to have things unnecessarily for a long time. It became public. And when it did become public, a lot of his disciples were in anguish. how come our Gurudeva did this? A good number of them left him. And it's okay in one sense. But the problem that many of them, I mean, like what many of them had was they had anger, they had resentment. Whereas a few of them felt, I have received something. I came from such a background, like, know nothing, and he nurtured it. So one way to look at persons who do commit transgressions is everybody is a work in progress. Look at what they have done for the world around them. In fact, one nice devotee said, you can find fault in him that he touched women inappropriately. There could be n number of reasons for it, and so this was his so-called god brother. That both of them were actually got initiated by Srila Prabhupada, and both of their lives took a similar turn. Whereas this sannyasi, this guru, he went to guru number 2. The other person also went to guru number 2, and I mean, but a different guru number 2. It was say guru number 3, something like that. Both of them, their life trajectory was different, and he said, the chief problem with this person, with this my god brother of mine, and I went and told him is that, look, you spent a lot of time in giving Krishna consciousness to others. You are working with your innate skill, which Krishna has given you, that you can reach out to people, you can connect to people, but you didn't deepen your connection to the holy name. It's time that you dive deeper. Just don't be a chatterbox. You dive deeper. And I think Krishna will help you. And you could never open up yourself to others. You have to submit to others. Krishna is teaching you that. He told him all of that. But then he also told in a wider group to others, you and I can tell n number of things what went wrong with him. But can you and I impact thousands of people to just take up the chanting of the holy name? No, we haven't done that. He has done that. He has burnt himself in doing it. At least we should give due respect to it. So the 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 whole thing that I brought this up here is that there is silence, like when Ramachandra and Lakshmana, when they were following Vishwamitra, there was silence. But there is also a time, I mean, and people don't, and sometimes are silent, not because of respect, but out of anguish. Point number 1 here in this case, let anguish, let past emotions and feelings not be the deciding factor for interaction. That's number 1. So don't mix up past anguish. Come out of it. If you're in past anguish, it's just mode of ignorance. And second, the opposite of being silent is know that be accountable to somebody else. It's going to be too late when things like what happened to that Maharaj happen. It's going to be too late. And that's why it is better to be accountable right from the beginning. I took a lot of time today. I hope you can excuse me for that.
Thank you, Prabhu. Thank you for giving so much in a very short time. Um, yeah, I was thinking of some questions, but I think we can take it tomorrow. The one question we can discuss it tomorrow, we'll stop here, is that we all are grown up with the education and something which says that if you are cheated, if you are betrayed once, it's okay. But if you are betrayed or cheated twice, then you are unable to see, and third time you are a fool. But if we apply the respect part here, and if you know that the person is going to cheat me, and still if you respect and listen to him and get cheated again, how to see that? I mean, what is the way of seeing in this scenario? So, but yes, we can take it tomorrow, Prabhu.
Yes, thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Devatas. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Mataji. Hare